All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started with today's session. One of two today. We will have this slow beans session, and then right after we're going to have stepping forward, looking to the future with all of the programs department directors from the staff will be sharing our hopes and dreams here at the end of our wonderful Leader Summit. We've been so thrilled with everyone's engagement, all of your suggestions, and just it's been so wonderful to have all of you join us and gather in the way that we're able to right now. My name is Mara Welton. I am the program director here at Slow Food USA, and I came on board around September, October time. And I got launched immediately into planning for the Plant a Seed campaign and Leader Summit and working with all of our programs and crafting some dreams for the future for Slow Food USA for 2022. And it's been so wonderful. I've been in the network for years and years and years as a chapter leader. I am a retired farmer. My husband and I had a farm for 16 years here in Burlington, Vermont, where I am based. So I feel like I've seen Slow Food go through a lot of changes over the 15 years I've been involved as a chapter or a volunteer leader, just like all of you. I am so excited to be on this side of it, though, and helping share my interest in biodiversity, which is what brought me to Slow Food in the first place. And particularly with this campaign that we're doing this year, Plant a Seed, that you've all heard a lot about already throughout the Leader Summit, but we're going to dig into it a little bit more today because we had this super serendipitous confluence of things happen globally. Slow Food Italy created slow beans in the past year. And as a former farmer, I mean, and a forever farmer, really, you never give it up, truly. I currently have a 1 acre garden at my house, so it's like you never really lose it. But I grew beans a lot. And for a lot of us, beans were the first things you grew as a kid, right? How many of us came home with a little Dixie cup with a little bean growing out of it as our first project, maybe even in kindergarten or preschool? And as a farmer, I was always so incredibly impressed by the growth of beans and just the exuberant just fortitude of a little bean seed pushing through the soil and just making itself known. I was always and continue to still be inspired by them. So when I heard Slow Beans was happening in Italy and that there's this whole group of people across the world who are thrilled and excited and identify with beans, I was like, you know what, that's also me. And in my close friend networks, people call me the bean queen. So I come by it honestly. I am very devoted. I belong to several bean clubs myself. I'm from the Southwest, Colorado and northern New Mexico originally. Beans have been a part of my life for a very long time. So this is a very passion project for me, but it also is very serendipitous with the slow food world right now because of slow beans being such a global phenomenon at the moment. So today we are going to hear from Carolina Modena, who is my counterpart in biodiversity at Slow Food International. She'll talk about the Slow Beans initiative there in Italy. And we also have two bean enthusiasts who approached Slow Food USA saying, hey, we're excited about slow beans. Is there a slow beans initiative here in America? And I said, there is now. So we will hear from Katie and David, who are based in Portland, Oregon, who are helping to create the movement here in North America. So let's see. I think what we'll do is move ahead in the thing. If you haven't already, drop your favorite bean in the chat. I will share mine. Mine is the bolita bean. It is on the Arc of Taste. It is a uniquely Southwestern bean. It's like a little baby pink. I probably have some kicking around my house, but I don't have some at my fingertips right now. But it's a little bean, often sort of outcompeted with a pinto bean in the Southwest, but they are far more delicious and they cook really fast and they've been around for centuries. And I just love them. They remind me of my grandma. So bolitas are my favorite. It's fun. It's been fun watching what folks are putting in the chat as well. There's lots of garbanzos, lots of Sea Island red peas. I see a lot of Arc of Taste representation there. Very sweet. Thank you so much. Keep it coming. Okay, so Carolina hasn't quite joined us yet from Italy. So what we're going to do, if Katie and David, you are ready, I'm going to introduce you and then we'll launch into your interest here with slow beans. Let me go to your slide and then we'll come back when Carolina comes on. So by way of introduction, Katie and David are members of Slow Food Portland, and they're both first-generation farmers who are passionate about building community around food. And together they started a farm-ish, they call it, this year, and ran a successful small-scale heirloom dry bean CSA, which is no small feat. Having done dry beans myself on the small scale, it's a labor of love, truly. So Katie is a queer farmer, a whole grain baker, a zine maker, and a plant nerd with an affinity for Sicilian folk traditions. Over the years, she's worn many different hats in the food and agriculture world, including as a researcher, a farmer, farmer's market manager, a cheesemonger, recipe developer, and culinary educator. Just wearing all those hats like so many of us do in slow food. I'm in awe of all of your interests. Before farming and baking, she got her master's in urban planning from the Harvard University Graduate School of Design, where she wrote about community seed saving and alternative economy. So welcome, Katie. David is a farmer who has split time as a grower and a farm educator, and he's an evangelist for all things CSA. And David strives to connect to the natural world through direct contact with life-giving soil. He has his master's in agricultural economics, where he studied local food systems and the community impact of CSA farms. He's also a master fermenter and cookie baker. Welcome, David. I'm going to turn the reins over to the two of you and mute myself. Just let me know when you'd like me to advance your slides.
Cool. Thank you, Mara. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And we just kind of wanted to start off by telling a little bit of our story as La Miranda Farm. Thank you, Mara, for inviting us to be a part of this. It's been incredibly inspiring and motivating, and has helped push along a dream that we kind of dreamed up about a year ago. So wanted to just express gratitude for that.
Yeah. And kind of the origin story, I think, for getting connected to the Slow Beans project in doing research as we started our bean journey this season. We were just bouncing around online, reading everything and anything we can find about beans, and we stumbled upon the Slow Food Italy slow bean movement, and specifically their manifesto, and we're just inspired by all of the work they were doing and how dedicated they were to this small, humble food crop. And we had reached out to Slow Food USA to see if there was any Slow Beans chapter or any movement kind of happening around here. And we had chatted with someone at Slow Food at the beginning of the 2021 season just about the possibilities, and it, the conversation was really invigorating and really exciting. But as most things happen through the farming season, in April, we had a lot of energy, and in May, we were kind of caught up in the farming season, and things sort of took a little hiatus, and we didn't reconnect until Mara reached out to us to see if we were still interested in kind of taking the reins and getting this Slow Beans movement going. And she had already laid so much groundwork with her programming with the Plant to Seed campaign, which we'll talk about, and kind of just brought us on board to sort of start a chapter here. So that's sort of the origin of how we connected to the Slow Beans movement. And then a little bit, I guess, about our project. You can see on the slide, we've got our little logo for La Miranda Farm, which is a project we started this year. So our story is kind of still unfolding and finding its form. Right now, we're like Mara said, a farm-ish. We're sort of a landless farm, relying on the support of our farming community to help us access growing space. We hope to find our own space to grow and live in the future. And we're kind of living that same struggle that I think a lot of young beginning farmers in terms of are struggling with in terms of living without access to land and capital. So we're still kind of trying to evolve and see where we fit in.
Yeah, so we've started our farming journey with the dry bean CSA for many reasons. As I'm sure all of you have a personal story with beans. We each have our own personal and ancestral story with beans. But at its core, planting beans for us feels like a promise, both to ourselves, our community, and to the earth. And it feels like a form of humble optimism and a little bit of reckless hope in the moment that we are all living through socially and with our ever evolving climate. And so it was a really grounding project. You can advance this slide. This is just a little example of our scale. We planted about an acre of beans as part of a collaborative project with a landowner we know. And a quarter of that acre was beans that we grew specifically for our CSA. As first year growers of dry beans at this scale, we made cautious estimates of our harvest and decided to sell only as many bean CSA shares as we felt really confident we could guarantee following through on. We're lucky to report that we actually have quite a bit of abundance. And so we're exploring hosting a pop-up to sell some of our beans that we still have remaining after we save our own seed as well.
And also eat plenty of
and
the
we've
beans.
been eating plenty of our beans as well. So just a small example of the generosity and abundance that beans provide. Yeah, you can even go to the next slide.
For La Miranda Farm, we settled into the CSA model as a way to connect with our community. It felt like the most authentic way for us to kind of connect with our friends and family. Since both of us have worked on farms that distribute through the CSA model, we felt pretty comfortable about the basic how-tos, and it seemed like a nice way to have people connect with this food that doesn't have the same kind of traction, I think, as a lot of other heirloom and like open pollinated varieties out there. It feels like beans are still a little bit in the undercurrent of the local food movement. And it's surprising considering how regionally adapted they all are, that they don't have as much of the same force behind them as so many other foodstuffs. But yeah, so to start, we knew we wanted to make sure that we had like an intentional interaction with the community. So decision-making process was always grounded in ways in which we could show up with our full selves while providing food for our community. We started our marketing just directly through our, word of mouth through friends, and grateful that our wide web of connections within our friend group of passionate home cooks and chefs and other bean nerds allowed us to sell shares without having to advertise elsewhere. So we sold 20 shares in our first season just to kind of connect with people around us.
Yeah, luckily to one or two of the participants here, we just got a note from Beth, one of our inaugural Beanie Babies. So just shout out to that. Yeah, for pricing, we wanted to talk a little bit about how important it was for us to build in economic justice around selling beans. So we implemented a sliding scale model for our bean CSA as a form of economic solidarity. This was a pay-as-you-can model, and we gave a kind of range of prices and also accepted trades. It's a model that allows those who have the economic means to pay more to do so, and those who do not to kind of be subsidized by the community. And that just, for us, was really important to diversify the economic access points to growing heirloom beans, because we all know that beans on the grocery store shelves can be extremely, extremely affordable, but we also know that that's a result of a form of agriculture that we don't feel comfortable participating in as farmers. And so striking a balance between honoring and recognizing the labor and the effort that it takes to grow this kind of food, while also respecting that we want everyone to be able to eat this kind of beautiful food. So it's always a dance that we're still learning and excited to learn more about. And as part of that economic solidarity for us, a land tax and reparations were a really important part of our business plan as well. So 10% of every bean share sale was donated to Black and Indigenous farming operations here in our community. Yeah.
And then just real fast, like we did our bean CSA sort of as like an at-home pickup, and then we've also done like a driving around town, bouncing along to a little bean distribution playlist that we made. So that's kind of the ways in which we've connected our shareholders to the beans. And then we've worked on a couple of little side projects. So you can see on the right side of the slide, that's in a couple of pages from a bean zine that we're working on distributing to our shareholders, and then hopefully to a wider audience.
Yeah, it was really important for us to tell the individual story of each of the beans that we grew. We grew 9 different varieties this first season, each with their own unique identity, flavor profile, origin story. And it was really important for us to convey that whole nuanced picture to our share members.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all, of course, some recipes and some fun bean facts and some nonsense, including a crossword about beans.
And yeah, that's sort of our story.
Thank you so much, you two. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you as we've been preparing for this and thinking about having our bean dream brainstorms for how we want slow beans to manifest here. And I was curious if you could talk about any sort of special bean growing stories from this year, doing it at this scale, and anything that comes to mind about any of these individual sweet little beans that you might want to share with us today.
Yeah, I would say one thing that definitely comes to mind, we're incredibly grateful for access to farmland and equipment through a farmer that I've worked with for the last handful of years, who has a bean sheller, which we affectionately refer to as the bean tickler. And it certainly increased the efficiency of processing all of our beans and made this bean dream possible. But we also did grow a bean that was not able to go through the bean processor. The Hungarian rice bean has a really tight pod that almost like hugs each one of the individual beans, and they are the size of a rice grain, so they are really tucked in there. And so we got to, experiment with additional types of processing. We used a silicone mat with a little rubber handle to try to break through them. We tried dancing on them, and all of those worked, but also would have taken hundreds of hours to process. So we got to experience what it was like to drive over beans with a vehicle as a means of bean liberation. And that was kind of a really fun discovery process.
Yeah. And I wish we had included pictures of our living room just piled above our heads with rice beans. But I would also kind of add that one of the things that's been really special is learning how to incorporate seed saving and future seasons into our kind of long-term visions. So we did grow a variety that we didn't distribute for our CSA because we only had 1 packet of seed. But we just grew out a 15-foot bed of the Cecchi. It's a Sicilian black chickpea. For me, as a descendant of Sicily, was a really important ancestral connection to make. And we were able to save our own seed enough so that we can plant out a full bed of that bean for next season. So just kind of learning how to have a conversation about time and place through these seeds has been also a really important part of our project. Yeah.
I feel like beans always have something to teach me when I grow them. And your story about the Hungarian rice bean reminds me of just like every bean has its own personality and its own specific way of growing and being in this world, just like all of us do. There's a question in the chat about if you could give the best use for each, the Whipple, Orca, and Tiger Eye that are up here on the slide, your favorite use for each of those.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Whipple bean is one of our favorites from this season, just because it's a very regionally adapted bean to the Pacific Northwest. And it's incredible in kind of chili type stews or casseroles or kind of luscious beany things. The Orca.
Yeah, the Orca to me feels like a good substitute almost for like a black bean. It's a little milder than most black bean varieties. It does retain some of its color scale. It just it doesn't look as striking when you cook them, but it's one of those beautiful beans that still has the lines when you cook it through. But yeah, I'd say like if you were looking to make something like a refried bean dish, or orcas are also lovely in a soup.
Yeah, they I've heard the orcas described as potato-like in texture, and I actually think that's very accurate. It does have a very like starchy, almost creamy-like interior. And then the tiger's eye, I would liken it to a pinto. It's a little sturdier. It can keep its tooth. Great in stews. I think it's best in like beans and rice bowls. It's so delightful.
And a lot of our shareholders have been cooking the tiger's eye with like strong meaty flavors, and it seems to like hold up well against, you know, like a ham hock or even, you know, like a bacon or pancetta in there. And it has a little bit of meatiness to it, so it blends well with that.
Yeah, and then I guess the flageolet verde is on the screen as well, but that one's a kind of almost Tic Tac size bean that you could swap in the role of any sort of cannellini bean in terms of like a stew or a white bean salad, but it's also very traditionally used for cassoulet. Yeah. There we go.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. That's awesome. Sweet. Are there any questions for this section of Katie and David's presentation? We what we're going to do is we're going to go from this back up a little bit and go to Carolina, who's joining us from Italy, to talk about slow beans in Italy. And then we'll talk about our vision for how beans are going to be in all of our foreground slow food wise this coming year. Okay. Thanks, Katie and David. Stand by and we'll tap you back in here in a second. And Carolina, I want to introduce you. Let me get back to your slides here. Okay. Carolina Modena is with Slow Food. She's the international focal point for the biodiversity pillar of Slow Food International. And after a degree in law at the University of Turin with a dissertation on the right to food, she chose to improve her knowledge on the food world by attending the Master of Food Culture and Communication at the University of Gastronomic Sciences in Palenzo, Italy, also affectionately known as UNISIG. She joined the Slow Food headquarters in 2017 and worked on the project and content hub with a specific focus on supporting producers involved in Slow Food Presidia projects or in the local networks such as Slow Beans. So currently she's the focal point for international projects on biodiversity, and she's strongly committed to promoting good, clean, and fair food for all as the tool to gain food sovereignty. So we're so lucky to have Carolina here with us today. And Carolina, if you would like to unmute yourself, you can take it away.
Thank you so much, Mara. Apologies for the arriving late. I have a little bit of problem calculating time zone. This is the reason why. But thank you so much. I'm really happy to join this session and to give a little bit of background of the work that we have done as Slow Beans in Italy, but also the work that we are planning to do for next year, for this year and next year, like the strategies that we have on expanding the Slow Beans network throughout all our slow food network internationally. So starting from this map, which you can also check on the website, on the Slow Beans section on our Slow Food website, is to give you an overview of all the Slow Beans communities that are now in the Slow Beans network. So it's really give you in a glimpse what is how many varieties of different pulses, because it's not only beans, it's lentils, it's chickpeas, it's cerveia, which is a wild pea specifically grown in the center of Italy. So very different varieties that have been included in our project Slow Food Presidia, or some of them in some slow food communities. So how come that all these varieties somehow came together through their producers into the Slow Beans network? So The network as such has been started, let's say, around 2010, when all these communities started to gather in an event in Tuscany, dedicated to beans, called the Slow Beans event. They were united by being members of Slow Food, but also by being beans producers. This is because I think it's a worldwide problem, but also in Italy, beans have been after the 50s, let's say, have been regarded as an undervalued food. While despite all the positive characteristic that I don't have to list here, as you all very well know, and so they really felt like they were really committed to raise awareness on the positive aspects of beans production and consumption. So they decided to really get together and form a community, a network, and they officially work as a network since 2013, where they launched their manifesto, very simple manifesto, and then they continue to meet regularly every year at the Slow Beans event. In the past 2 years, 3 years now, I've been working with them very closely, and especially during the pandemic situation, where it was really difficult to think of having gatherings during the year. We started to really to meet once a month, sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less, but let's say regularly, and to really understand how this community can expand in Italy and outside. How can they raise their voice? How can they really bring the messages throughout all our network, but beyond? And so we started this to build, like say, to work more on a strategy for the expansion of this Beans message and network, and we launched the campaign of Let It Bean. Let It Bean is well, this is a picture of final. If you want to go back, yeah, this is a picture that we took on one of the last gathering that the network had. Each of the producers that are in the picture represent a different variety, so of Italian pulses. So and it's really, as you see, it's a very wide variety of pulses. And as I was mentioning, so we started working on this campaign called the Let It Bean campaign. Is the campaign launched in the framework of Terra Madre 2020-2021, together with Meatless Monday, which had been a very strategic partner in this campaign. What we did was to, like the main aim of the campaign, the main objective was to promote beans and pulses and legumes and as climate-friendly food. So to really pushing that positive part of beans that we think we can, nowadays especially, can reach very well the heart of the many because of our current environmental situation. So to really highlight that aspect, but to doing that together and asking the collaboration of municipalities.
No, wait.
Now?
Yes.
Okay, apologies. So I was stressing the role of municipal authorities in the campaign, which is to address subnational governments, because we find them easier to reach and to get involved in the preservation and promotion of local varieties. And to make them proud of their local assets. So we started this collaboration, we started this campaign involving 6 municipalities throughout Italy that concretely commit to a specific action to promote beans production and consumption. We didn't want to give them only one possibility, but to pick from a list of possible activities that they can do, because we also noticed that each territory has its own necessities, and so we didn't want to close too much the possibilities, and so with this campaign, we would like to incentivize municipalities to promote not only beans, but starting from beans, to promote more sustainable and climate-friendly diets, and to increase the general public's knowledge about beans, which is very quite low, let's say, and to also raise awareness about this amazing network of producers, and the possibility also to implement the Meatless Monday initiative. The campaign that started, as I said, at the end of the 2020, had a second phase this year in fall, where we had a communicational campaign trying to include more municipalities in Italy, and also to go international wide. So we asked which one content we published. We broadcast one content every Monday for 6 Mondays, to really ask the municipalities, but also producers and activists around the world to join the campaign. We had a good respondents to that, and we are already in contact with some new municipalities that would like to join. In the meantime, we have been working a lot to structure the Slow Beans event that we achieved to organize last year by the end of the beginning of December, because one of the municipalities that joined the campaign accept to host, like their commitment was to host an edition of Slow Beans. So we managed to organize this in the beginning of December. It was really important because in parallel we had a session with all the mayors within the campaign. We had a session with the international participants that managed due to COVID. Of course, it wasn't a real big group, but still it was important because we managed to bring some European producers and activists from our network that are really interested in developing the network the network and the campaign in their countries. So from Poland, Germany, Bulgaria, we had a good representation. And so we were very happy about this. Also, we had a month of waiting for Slow Beans event. So to really deep into the content related to beans. We had one specific one on beans in schools canteens, and that was really good because the municipality of where we were holding the meeting really decided to commit to was convinced to commit to the introduction of beans in schools. So we think that that beans are really strategic now in the conversation of protein transition, reduction of meat consumption, but also to really like use beans as an opener for the discussions on all this topic. And it's they brought with them a really nice storytelling, because they have all their specificities, all the different varieties. It's a really also good way to showcase biodiversity. So it's we really think as legumes as a really strategic food for the years to come.
Thank you so much, Carolina. This is so helpful. And this is like one of my favorite things about being part of the Slow Food Network in general, is it connects us to all these other groups that are like-minded, right? And I think often folks involved with Slow Food USA chapters forget that we're part of a global community. And I love driving some of my inspiration or getting some of my inspiration for when I was a chapter leader. I would often look at some of the international programs and see what they were up to. And I got a lot of inspiration. And similarly, like the Slow Beans project for our Plant to Seed project this year, I got that inspiration from Slow Food International. So I'm super inspired to hear that you had so much municipality involvement. I think it gives us hope that, you know, here in the US, it's possible to work on a small local scale to get more awareness. And this is why I was so inspired by beans, because I feel like they have a unique capacity to teach us a lot about climate, health, and food justice, frankly. And so that is why we're going to use them for the Plant to Seed campaign this year to tell that story. Awesome. Does anyone in attendance have any questions for Carolina?
And I want to just, Mara, to underline one thing, and then if there are questions, we'll be more than happy to reply. What I really like about this campaign is that it has been a decision, let's say, from the producer of the network in Slow Beans. So we as Slow Food International, we collect the need, we support them in organize themselves and in bring content to this campaign. But it was really a classical example of bottom-up campaign and approach. So and also I think this is why it has been so we reached a positive reply also from the territories that wanted to join.
Totally. I mean, this is a grassroots network at work, right?
Yeah,
They're saying,
exactly.
hey, there's a huge interest here. Can we do things together? And that's sort of our motivation here between Katie, David, and myself, thinking, how can we connect people? Because there's already an interest here. I mean, Katie and David came to us and said, there's an interest, let's do something together. And the synchronicity of it being global is really, it's timely. It's time for being people together.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much. All right, there's some great links that Anna has thrown in the chat for folks if you want to follow Slow Food or Slow Beans Italy and their projects. There's the manifesto in there as well. I'm going to skip ahead to the slide that we've seen a few times during the Leaders Summit. And as you've heard me say today, my inspiration for Slow Beans is that connection, that it will help us tell the story of climate, health, and food justice throughout the whole year. So for Plant to Seed, and I'm not going to repeat too much of this because we've talked about it quite a bit, and you'll hear about it quite a bit more throughout the year. But there's so many ways for us to use beans to learn about all these issues in our current food system. I'm hoping to connect with all of the various programs throughout the year and have different seasons of bean storytelling throughout the year. As everybody starts to grow their beans. The Plant to Seed campaign is going to launch officially on February 10th, which is World Pulses Day. We are going to be doing a Slow Food Live with FAO, who's one of our partners, and I think Anna can throw the invite into the chat there if you want to pre-register. And so not only is the Plant to Seed a campaign that's going to help create this unifying theme for our whole network this year, but it's also a kit. And so this year, I'm sourcing from various folks the 6 representative beans for each of the regions of the US here. And the Southeast representative is going to be Cherokee Trail of Tears bean. The Northeast is going to be Hank's Extra Special Baking bean. For the Midwest, we got the Arikara Yellows. For the Southwest, we have Four Corners Gold bean. For the Northwest, where Katie and David are based, that's the Rockwell bean. And for California, we got the Santa Maria Pinquito bean. All of these beans are on the Ark of Taste. All of them have wonderful stories. And there's so many beans that we could have chosen, but I zeroed in on these because they are available. There's enough of them for me to share with the whole network. And so many of the beans on the Ark of Taste are rare, right? And they provide us an opportunity to talk about, you know, the similar story that Katie and David shared with the Sicilian Cecchinato bean. They only had a packet to start with, and they just planted 15 row feet of those beans, and now they have enough to actually share next year. And that's one of the things we're trying to demonstrate with the kit, is that whole year-long commitment to a food and how it can impact your life. You know, not only just the planting and the growing and the eating and the cooking and the sharing, but you're also going to get to save it and then secure your own food future, actually. And beans have such a great way of sharing us, and I'm hoping you're going to see that demonstrated in your own gardens this year. This is definitely a difference from the Plant a Seed project of years past. We've never focused on one specific crop before, so it'll be an interesting experiment, and I'm going to love all of your feedback throughout the year, all of your bean ideas and all the ways that you want to connect with beans. I would love to hear about them. You can always reach me at Mara, M-A-R-A, at slowfoodusa.org with all of your questions and ideas throughout the year. Please send them my way. I'll answer everybody's emails, and we'll do this together. We're going to navigate the bean world together this year. These are not the only beans that I would like to feature this year. I mean, everyone, as Katie said, everyone has their own connection to a bean. So, and a bean story, and maybe there's a bean that you want to celebrate. And maybe it's not on the Ark of Taste yet, and maybe you want it to be. Well, let's get you connected to your Ark of Taste committee in your region, and let's get a nomination started, and let's work on that together this year. There's so many ways to connect with this program. And inside the kit, like I said, there's the 6 bean packets, and they've all started arriving. It's been like Christmas at my house with all of the bean packets arriving. It's just been so exciting to see them all in one place. We're going to provide seed-saving envelopes in the kit. They're going to be, I think, 10 seed-saving envelopes in there, so that will hopefully give you the impetus to save those beans at the end of the year and then share them. Share them at a seed swap next year, or share them with your community, or put them in a little seed library in your neighborhood. We're currently compiling a bean zine. Us bean lovers love to put bean information together, and we have so many statistics and ideas and recipes that we want to share to have your bean journey be really successful this year. So that's also in the kit. And for every kit purchase, one goes to a school garden. So there's a lot of value there we can share with our larger network by just participating. So how to get connected to Slow Beans here in the US. We've created a listserv, and oh, wait, really quick, one question. When will we be receiving the beans? So when the campaign launches on February 10th, that's when you can start purchasing them online and reserving your bean kits. I'm going to be working with the Slow Food Youth Network group up here in Vermont to help me compile all of the kits. And I'm hoping to send them all out throughout the month of March. The beautiful thing about beans is you can't really plant them until the soil's warm. So we have a little bit of a wiggle room there between March and April to get them to everyone. But we are hoping to produce 750 kits this year. So when they're gone, they're gone. And we're hoping that everybody will share with us all throughout the whole year what you're doing with your kit and how your gardens are growing. But yeah, so March-ish is when I'm sending them out. But in the meantime, we can talk beans and we can connect with each other. I created a Google form. It's in the chat now to join the Slow Beans listserv. And Katie and David, do you want to talk about who you had imagined would join our listserv? We had 3 groups in mind.
Sure, we can talk a little bit about it. And yeah, we just also wanted to kind of couch all of this conversation in that this is an unfolding and imaginative space. So we're excited to hear from others and kind of to model after the Slow Beans Italy ground up model. We are just dreamers and excited to see what can bubble up when other people get involved. So we were kind of talking about what it would mean for Slow Beans to exist in our communities as Slow Food USA members, and kind of imagined as bean growers, bean cooks, and bean eaters, you know, those are 3 different identities that we wear in our relationship to beans. And we figure that everyone who might be interested might identify more or less as one of those 3 things, a grower, an eater, or a cook. And so, you know, I'm sure a lot of people on this video are 1 or all 3 of those things. Maybe there's more categories too. But yeah, just thinking about expansive ways to connect and share knowledge and resources related to those kind of 3 different identities, because I think bean growers have a lot to share with other bean growers. We can read all we want about how to farm beans, but the most information we've gotten is just from talking to people who've been doing it a lot longer and smarter than us. And so expanding ways to connect, to share that knowledge in a kind of horizontal and non-hierarchical way feels really at the root of what we want to do here. And same with eaters and cooks too, you know, what is the nutritional value that we're all sharing with this crop? What is the best way to cook them? What is the best way to make them popular in our food cultures? You know, is that in restaurants? Is that in recipes? Is that in bean feeds or events, or, you know, all of the above? So that's kind of our vision statement.
Yeah, sort of like from an inclusivity standpoint, you can't have this whole movement take off unless all 3 of those groups are participating. Everybody has an equal share in the success of promoting and spreading the as bean evangelists, spreading the good word of the humble bean. Kind of need all 3 pieces to make it work.
Yeah, totally. And I'm hoping that it will be a very organic space where people can drop recipes, drop, you know, pictures, share with us questions, ideas, anything you want to share with your fellow bean enthusiasts out there, because we'll understand you. I have bean jewelry on almost at all times, and I'm always cooking with beans and always thinking of other ways to use beans. I'm fascinated by bean art. I'd love a place to be able to share that with folks. And we want to let you know too that the Slack channel that I created on Slow Food USA's Slack is #SlowBeans. So we can just talk there as well. If you have Slack and you like using it, that's another place to connect. And then instead of creating a whole other Instagram for Slow Beans USA, we thought, why don't we all in our own realms just start using the hashtags so we can find and connect with each other's accounts there. So #SlowBeans and #PlantASeed would be really great if you'd use those hashtags as you work with us through this year and as we're celebrating beans together. I want to give a moment here. I might skip ahead from the Jamboard for a second. Oops, I guess I did skip. There we go. Katie and David have drafted a drafty draft of the Slow Beans USA Manifesto. This is something we love to do at Slow Food in general, is create these manifestos or an intention of purpose. And I tasked my friends here with saying, why don't you see if you can pull up a manifesto? And I would love for them to read it to us and then get some feedback, and then maybe we can call it a day here after that. Let me go to the manifesto so we can read it together.
Okay.
All right, folks.
So yeah, we'll kind of read through, and again, this is very much a draft and hopefully something that people can elaborate on. Oh, it looks like we might need to change the permission settings on. I always think I've done that right. Oh no. Maybe Anna is able to do that.
It seems like it's already set. I'm not sure what else to change. You're all, is anyone able to get in?
Yeah, somebody else just logged in. That's great.
Okay, well, we'll start with reading it, and I can always can always tinker with it later. I'm technologically challenged over here. Trying. Okay, so we were inspired and invigorated by the Slow Beans Italy network of producers, cooks, eaters, and all about bean enthusiasts. Slow Beans USA sets out to build grassroots community around a shared passion for the humble beans that inspire us through their stories, their art, and their potential in the kitchen. And this is just an excerpt of something that Carolina already shared. So Slow Beans is a network dedicated to joyfully celebrating the theme of beans. We adopt the anarchic and relationship-based principles of the original Slow Bean Italy initiative as we spread the leguminous energy to international efforts to promote and steward the production and consumption of beans. We adhere to the following guiding principles.
And like I said, very much a draft, and happy to take any and all input as we kind of ground ourselves in all of these different principles. But we got 7 down. The complex biodiversity, beans, and the individual sacred stories they contribute to our environment, as well as the safeguarding of biocultural diversity and the inherent relationship beans have to food and seed sovereignty. The right to the pleasure and conviviality that comes from sharing the experience of beans in a meal, in a seed exchange, or in our fields and gardens. How the humble bean is a beautiful staple food crop that unites diverse cuisines and cultures while simultaneously celebrating and upholding differences between distinct culinary traditions and ritual. The universal right across socioeconomic lines to accessible, nutrient-dense, and earth-enriching food through radical inclusivity and a wide network of involved bean enthusiasts. The lessons contained within beans of climate resilience and human adaptability in the face of climate chaos, and a radical commitment to collaboration and horizontal structures of knowledge sharing amongst growers, cooks, and eaters, and the ethical responsibility to steward, not own, seed, and honor origins.
That's what we got.
Thank you so much. As they said too, it's like, this is a guiding document, a living document, and I feel like it's just a way to guide us as we think about beans in our various locations. And I think this will be an ongoing, long conversation. I feel like I want to stop my screen share, and Carolina, you have something you want to share. Oh, we can't hear you. Nope.
Now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. No, just saying that, well, this is great. It's really nice to see that the topic of beans will be also something developing in US, and that there is already a group of people that are being enthusiastic, and so I'm really really glad to hear all of this, and just wanted to highlight the fact that if as Slow Food we can facilitate exchanges with the Italian network, and with all the people that now we are kind of mapping throughout Europe that are really active in the topic. So I think this is something that could be definitely done. There are some barrier languages, but we can try to manage that. And I think it would be very important for you all to connect at least one this year to those people. For sure, we can organize a bigger meeting with all of them, but also more specific ones with someone specifically also from the network, because I mean, I told the how everything started, but listening from their voices, it's different, of course. So please consider that. And Mara and I, we are in contact regularly, so she can also be the focal point for this work on.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Carolina, for offering that. That's a great idea. I think we're going to skip the Jamboard for today. We have another session right after this. Anna's dropped the survey link in the chat there, but I would love a couple questions or a couple comments from anybody. I know we all engage with slow food in our own ways. Some people are really enthusiastic about slow books. Some people are really enthusiastic about slow wine. There's some of us that are enthusiastic about slow beans. So we're hoping that this could be another entry point for a lot of folks out there who maybe don't find the others as more of a connection, that maybe that beans might not be for them. So it's another slow that we can engage with. Would anyone like to say anything before we close for today? Well, we hope to see you on all of the slow bean locations, all the little buckets that we've created for interacting. I look forward to sending a bunch of kits out into the void and to have you guys grow a bunch of beans this year. I mean, you can grow a lot of food with these 6 packets of beans to share with your community or yourself, or just be inspired by them growing. So I look forward to connecting with everybody. And I wanted to thank Carolina today, and I want to thank David and Katie for your initiative on slow beans here in the US. It's so lovely to have so much enthusiasm. And thanks to all of you for joining us today on your Sunday here at the end of the Leaders Summit. Feel free to check out that survey. It really helps us with our programming, and we're so grateful for all of your participation throughout the Leaders Summit. We have one more session right after this one, so I hope to see some of you there as well. So I will sign off. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Carolina.